Welcome, David Ragsdale, to We Will Rock You.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
Good, good. So how have you been?
Busy here lately.
I guess so. Now, let me just clarify this. You're actually opening for yourself on tour right now, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Now, how does that work?
Well, it actually works out real well. Usually you have to quit your old band before you form your new band, but we've been spared having to do that. So we have a captive audience.
Right.
It's nice to be able to as an opening act and a unknown band to open for a big crowd of people who know who you are.
Right. Now, do you get paid twice for this gig?
Well, we're working cheap right now.
Okay.
It's an arrangement we had to make with the headliner.
Right. That's funny. Tell me how the Native Window project came to be.
Well, it started as a joke, really, and that's a nice segue because the joke was, you go to these gigs and there's some band opening for you, and the joke is, well, why don't we just open for ourselves and be done with all this, peripheral garbage, and then the deeper the joke became, one day Phil called me up and said, and we're in a situation right now where, as Kansas, there's a lot of people that would love, and I'm one of them, that would love there to be a new Kansas album, but with Steve Walsh and Kerry Livgren just not interested. There's a lot of turmoil and angst and creating a Kansas album is a difficult thing because it is a specific thing.
Right.
And
it needs the participation of certain people, of course.
And it needs the participation of the other people. It's a big collaborative deal, and what you have is Kerry or Steve would come in with a song, and then to turn it into a Kansas song, everybody has to get out their hammers and their saws and start editing, and it can be a very painful process, to see your idea being changed,
right,
and molded into something else that you weren't hearing, and so that being the case, I mean, neither one of them are interested in putting themselves through that right now.
Right.
And here's the four of us,
yeah.
And we still want to be creative. We still want to hammer and saw and create something. So the four of us ducked into a studio in Jonesboro and just let's see what happens if we try this,
Right.
So Billy has a solo project that he calls Seventh Key, and he had some song ideas left over from that. And I've got little melodic fragments of stuff lying around. And also Phil went out and asked for contributions from other songwriters, publishing houses. You got some songs that are just sitting around that we could take a shot at.
Right.
And so we had some submissions that were presented to us. Billy had some ideas. There were several songs that we just sat down and Richard, the song Got to Get Out of This Town, Richard just came in with this quirky little guitar riff. And, okay, well, that's cool. Where would this go? And all of a sudden we created another section, and then Billy started humming melodies. And, we got through the form of the song in about a couple of hours. And Billy took that home and wrote some words, and then he and Phil hammered the words out. And the next time we met, we had this song, and we did that really with 4 or 5 of them. I can't remember.
So it was pretty collective. It's not like one.
Yeah, it
was.
Yeah. And it was the same way with the submitted songs. We did some tinkering with the lyrics. We did a lot of tinkering with the arrangement and the mood. It seemed, I can't remember which song it was that started out kind of moody and dark a little bit, and we brightened it up and rocked it up and tinkered around with the lyrics a little bit and came up with what ended up being a very different song.
Right. Well, that's pretty neat. Now, how did this process work with the producer, Steve Rawls? Where did he come from, and what did he play in that?
Steve is part owner, I believe, of a studio down in Jonesboro called Reel to Reel. Mm-hmm. That is primarily owned by Bill Turpin, who is the father of Will Turpin in Collective Soul.
Oh,
and that's the studio where Collective Soul did their first couple of albums, I believe. And so it's a great little studio down there. And Steve's got a bunch of great ideas, and he kind of held back and kept us from going silly.
Okay.
When we would get a little too creative, he'd kind of pull back on it and say, "Wait a minute, let's take another look at this."
Right.
And Steve, the song "The Light of Day" was based on a progression that he had written. So he was collaborating as a writer as well as a producer, and he was at times the voice of reason.
Very good. Now, how did the tracking work? Did you track this live together? Did people come in and do their parts separately, as is often the case?
The first thing we would do with it, and we did this with every single song, is sit down and see if we gave it the campfire treatment, where you'd sit around in a circle with acoustic guitars. Billy had an acoustic bass. I had, my violin. Phil was just kind of pounding out patterns he was sitting on a chair and beating on a drum throne. And if a song will suffer that treatment and still work as a song, you've got a pretty good song.
Right.
And there were songs that did not pass that test.
Right.
And those went away, and the ones that passed the test, we cut in that format. Just literally sitting around and we would record it. And once we had 5 of them, I think, we came in with the real instruments.
Oh.
And we didn't know. Now, are we going for an acoustic thing, or are we going to, maybe spruce it up with a couple of electric guitars? And we don't know. So we came in and laid down drum parts and bass parts, and then Richard would add guitars, and from there the song would start to come to life. And the violin part would kind of evolve from what was going on there as to how, what kind of mood do I want to contribute to this.
Right.
And then rough vocal tracks, backing vocals. Then we kind of stand back and take a look at it and go, okay, now what does it need? Let's talk about accessories, ties, cufflinks,
right.
That sort of thing.
Right.
And it was just kind of built from the ground up. Each song was pretty much built from the ground up, pretty much in that fashion.
Very good. Now, how do you manage to not sound like Kansas when, in fact, you are most of that band? Most of the same people are on this record, but it really doesn't come off like a Kansas record.
Well, thanks. That's very much what we were shooting for. It's not Kansas material. It's not. Kerry and Steve both have very grandiose, very musically involved conceptions. Mm-hmm. And this is a pop record. We're just cranking out pop songs in a kind of, and giving it a different treatment, and not going so much for the pomp and the drama and the gravitas